Hey, good morning, everybody. So I got to talk quick because there's a lot of people doing yard work and everything around here. I don't want to screw up with the audio. But today's the day I'm going to go ahead and assemble the bench. I kind of did a little mock-up of the vise and the grinder on kind of how I'm going to do things. So I'm going to go ahead and walk you through that. But the way today's going to go is I got to kind of clean up the space for it for two things. Number one, to put the bench in once I'm finished. Number two, to have space to kind of work as I screw everything together. I mean, it's kind of a mess here. I got the wood planer disassembled back here. I'm going to show you my new dust collection that I got. But without further ado, hey, it's time to send it. Here you can kind of see how I have the vise mocked up. I'm going to go ahead and put it over here. And I was kind of playing on how to do this. I'm going to put the legs centered under, put it under the center there. So I'm going to put it back there. So it's kind of got a good area that it's going to be a little tight. I may have to play with the placement on this, but if I put it where it is right now, it's going to be just behind this plug that eventually I'm going to put in. And so I'm kind of concerned that on the spacing. So I think as long as I go with a bolt that fits perfectly, I shouldn't have any problems. And then the next piece over here, you can kind of see there's the planer disassembled underneath there, but here's my grinder I'm going to put on, and I'm going to keep it on roughly the same spot here. I'm probably going to go ahead and look for some sound dampening stuff, just because at one point, although it wasn't bolted down, I have used this on the bench and it tends to rattle everything on the bench right now. So I'm probably going to go find some like Dynomat used for dampening car vibration from audio and give that a go. I think that should work. But yep, there's the planer. I need to get that all finished. The bench is going to be going over there. So without further ado, let's get started. So now that the garage is cleaned up, I kind of wanted to talk real fast about this Delta dust collector that I picked up. So I saw it on Facebook Market and I picked it up for $100. Originally they were asking $400, and I was able to talk them down because number one, when it first came out, it was only $300, and it's like about 10 years old or so. But it's a 1 micron filter. Some of them are probably a little bit less expensive, but I've seen brand new ones going today for about like around $500, $550. Now, what's kind of cool about this is, and the reason why I was able to get it so cheap is because it completely works. So why was it being sold? A gentleman, an older gentleman, had passed away, and his daughter was basically selling his things away. I see it even more of my benefit that I kind of get to carry on his tradition, because the daughter was telling me that he started doing woodworking projects when he retired, and I kind of feel honored that I get to continue his legacy using his equipment to where hopefully when I get everything set up, I will be doing woodworking projects also into at least my first retirement and into my second retirement. All right, let's continue. It's always you. It's always you. It's always you. It's always you. Keep falling for you. Just when I thought I had everything going, I turned off the camera, went looking for the bolts, and of course, couldn't find them. One of the things that's always so frustrating is when you lose things, it's always in the last place you're looking. I got everything cleaned up. My work area space is ready to go. I believe I got all the nuts and bolts and washers I have. First step, what I'm going to do is double check the placement on both the grinder and the on the vise to make sure that number one, when I mount the vise, I'm going to have the one vise bolt go through this. So it's going to be this one right dead center underneath the vise. And I want that because number one, if you're doing a lot of banging and everything on it, I want that energy to transfer straight to the ground and not necessarily have to flex the table at all. So definitely built this strong, but anything I can do to increase the longevity. Then once I got that kind of placed up, I also want to make sure when I have the legs both equal distances from the edge, that this is also in a good place to mount. So that what I'm trying to line up on for the grinder is I don't really care if a bolt is going through the other leg or even if it's going directly over the leg, because I don't have to worry about that as far as weight being able to transfer down. But what I do want to do is make sure you can't really see it with the cameras right now, but on this side is where I have the wire wheel, and that's where we do a lot of cleaning. So just to make sure that I got the space and everything that I need, if I have like a long piece, I want to make sure that that's hanging over the edge. So I got to kind of play mini Tetris right now and see and get everything lined up the way I want before I start making holes. All right, let's go. Hola, mi amor.
What are you doing?
Hey, Pepe, I'm putting my table together.
Oh, this is the table?
Yep, just so you know, I'm being recorded.
Esto?
It's going to go underneath there, yes.
I thought you were recording now.
I am recording now.
Oh, no, I don't want to get into it.
Since I assembled this, I went ahead and put on this little sleeve here, tighten it down. That way it's still too hard for me to pull up due to the spring tension. I may even have to want to replace the spring in the future. But in the meantime, in order not to damage the old part of the vise, I just get these, clamp down, and then I can go ahead and lift up. So right now I just want to expose the holes. Okay, so there we go. So I want to make sure I moved a little bit. Okay. So now it's just kind of tweaking and peeking, making sure I get it back to where it was, because I definitely moved it again. All right, I'm going to make the holes. Actually, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mark the holes, and then I'm going to put the center again and just make sure that when it's over the holes, it's exactly in the position to where I want to be off in front of the table. So let's mark the holes. All right, now that the holes are marked, I'm going to go ahead and center up the vise again and see if it's where I want it to be. And the goal is, whoops. The goal is once it's straight over the edge, that when I open it, I could put a piece of metal all the way to the ground without the table interfering. I'm lined up. I'm going to take the camera off the mount real fast and show you what kind of clearance I got. So from the front end of the piece of, from the front end of the vise all the way down, I got clearance. And then plus, right now it's kind of at an angle. When it levels out, it might give me a little bit more, but I think this is worst case scenario. All right, so let's go ahead and move the vise and start drilling. Before I set the camera up for drill, and I just kind of want to highlight, so one of the things that I also have paid attention to, since I have additional hardware going between the vices, where the holes line up. So at this particular hole and on this particular hole, they both fall on either side of this, so I'm good. I have 1/2-inch bolts, and I'm choosing to drill the hole with 5/8, just because I don't want the bolt to necessarily be grabbing on the tire, on the tabletop. I just want it to be purely being held in by the nuts and washers. So I'm going to drill it out to 5/8. Now, an additional, possibly more than likely unnecessary step is I'm going to, in order to make sure that I am drilling directly into the center, I'm not going to hold it with, before I put the bit into the drill, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I tap the hole in there so that it grabs. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do it again the other way just to make sure I'm dead center. No turning back now. Trick is trying to do it straight up and down. That's what I'm trying to put extra focus on as I do this.